Sean, Alabama had a very, very rough outing against South Carolina, a game that looked like early that they were going to separate and their offense was going to take over. Their pissed off defensive line was going to bounce back after the bad game against Vanderbilt. But no. The final score ends up being 27-25. There were so many perfect instances for Alabama to completely, actually both these teams, neither one of them wanted to win the football game. There was just a hilarious turn of events that led to the back and forth of this game where neither team wanted to take this game and just finish it, just end it out. And I talk about I think it was a throw to Jeremy Bernard where it was a mesh corner concept where they really only needed to connect on the mesh. So really all they needed to do was run the football and then close out the clock. But instead, you hit Bernard in the corner of the end zone. It's big, it's exciting, it's momentum building, and you give them the ball back. They march down. They score, failed 2-point conversion, recover the onside kick. And then after the recovered onside kick, the interception by Lenora Sellers. Messy, horrible, bad game. If South Carolina had any competence or capability of a good team, if they even resembled a good team, Alabama would have lost. Alabama 1,000% would have lost. It is ridiculously insane to come back down to earth after the Georgia game. I legitimately don't know what this Alabama team is. I don't. And I hate the people that jump to the conclusion that say, well, Georgia's not very good and Alabama's worse than them, so they both shouldn't be top 10 teams. That's ridiculous. Like, that is a complete overreaction. It's fine to sit here and say that Georgia is still a great team and that they haven't played great over the past few weeks. And I think that applies here for Alabama. I just don't know with their remaining stretch of games if they are going to play this messy and mistake-filled, if they're going to be able to finish. Because right now, bad offensive line play, bad decision-making on offense. Jalen Milroe's taken 2 steps backward. They can't tackle. All of those things are going to keep catching up to them, things that look like that they weren't problems in the first couple of weeks.
Alabama's defense is suspect. And the offense isn't potent enough to break away. You can have one or the other if you really want to. If you want to keep skating by, you can't have both of those scenarios happening for your team. Jalen Milroe, 2 interceptions today. That's rough. I know he had 2 rushing touchdowns, a passing touchdown. I think 2 back-to-back games where he's under like 225 passing yards. He had 2 and 9 today. Alabama may be truly fraudulent because I am not buying the hype of the middle-of-the-road SEC team. I'm not buying the hype of the Kentucky is better than we thought they were. South Carolina is better than we thought they were.
I said that to Blake, and Blake got mad at me. They're not good teams.
They're not that good.
They're not shit teams.
They're not that good to get to scrape by with 2 points versus South Carolina. The Vanderbilt thing happens once in a million. Okay, I can make sense of a crazy thing happening in football. Joe and I have seen hundreds of crazy things happen in football that just you can't make sense of it. But after that, to turn in a performance like this, to come out flat, to let South Carolina get momentum, and this is where it started. There's 4 minutes left in the second quarter, and Alabama, you could tell, was already thinking about halftime. And they forgot that they had to close out the quarter, go to half with a 14-point lead. Maybe you give up and concede a field goal. I don't love it, but it's still a 2-score game. They let them right back in it at half, and it was a 1-score game going back, and South Carolina's getting the ball coming out of halftime. They punched out. You could see that they took 4 minutes off, and they're not good enough to coast on their laurels. They're not good enough to do that. So DeBoer needs to let them know that. Hey, guys, you're not 2014 Bama. You're not 2011 Bama. There's not Reggie Ragland back here to come bail you out. Clinton Dix isn't going to have a crazy interception to bail you out. You need to play a full 60 minutes, and they're incapable of doing that at this point. I think that's their main problem.
It kind of chalks up to first-year coach at a new program, and obviously Kalen DeBoer is not a first-time head coach, to clarify that before anyone jumps on that. He has been a fantastic coach everywhere he's been, but the first year that you're taking over a program, you're going to have miscues. You're going to have bad games, and the issues that they're having seems like it's just a lack of connection, lack of chemistry. You've got a bunch of guys that were recruited by Nick Saban that didn't know that they were going to be coached by Kalen DeBoer. A lot of them decided to stay. They decided to stick around. Some of them have been playing great, but it just feels like that there's a disconnect between his team and a group of guys that were recruited and bought in to being there for another man to lead them. That's what it feels like to me. It just feels like that they're not on the same page. And maybe this thing just doesn't really hit the ground running until next year. I believe that they still have 9-3 in their system, and they're going to have a really good 9-3 resume. I know that sounds weird for me to say after implying that a 9-3 Ole Miss team wouldn't get in. Their resume is going to look a lot worse than an Alabama team with the Georgia win. If they beat Mizzou, they're in position. And if they're able to beat Tennessee, which Tennessee looks like a mess, that's going to be a slop fest of a game. They're in position with a 9-3 record.
I really like the recruited by Saban playing for DeBoer, because it really feels like a bunch of players that are having to listen to their stepdad. I can eat candy before dinner. You're not my dad. My mom's going to defend me. I'll be fine. And then they can always, if something happens, they can always default to, this wouldn't happen with Saban. I came here to play for Saban. It's not clicking right now. This isn't the guy I came to play for. Like, it feels like built-in excuses for an Alabama team who historically under Nick Saban would scoff and be disgusted at the idea of trying to make excuses. So it's a completely different tone with this team, and they're not, I don't think they're fully bought in. And they can say they're bought in. You can say the locker room's all behind Kalen DeBoer, and I believe he's a good enough coach to get them there. At this current juncture, it's not that close.
No. Your way does not feel like that they're in that true position yet. And Kalen DeBoer had never taken his team to the great heights that he took them in the first year. It was usually a really promising, nice first year, but because it's Alabama, our expectations are completely flawed and they're diverted, away from what the reality should actually be.